First, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks a lot to the Horizon Europe National Office of Georgia for this invitation. So I'm really happy to be here. And thank you for Sylvia for the nice introduction word. I recognize the quote. We have that on one of our documents that we have produced in the gender sector in DG Research and Innovation. I'll try to share my document. Let's try. I hope this works. You will let me know. So do you see it as a slideshow? Wait.
Yes. Yes.
See it as a slideshow?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. I'll try just to remove the floating. Yeah, then this should be better. No, you see everything?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, so just a few words on myself. So I'm a senior policy officer indeed in the gender sector in a unit that is now called Democracy and European Values in DG Research and Innovation. And I've joined the Commission in 2017. And before that, I was the head of the Gender Equality Office at the French National Center for Scientific Research, CNRS. So I've been working on these issues since about 2006. And I will try to give you not only some practical details on gender equality provisions in Horizon Europe, but also a picture of the policy framework, the European research area mainly, and also the situation within the Commission. So to help you put that into perspective. So the EU policy context. In the Commission itself, you may know that President Ursula von der Leyen really put gender equality high on the policy agenda. She requested that all member states actually try to reach and propose two people actually for the position of commissioner, a woman and a man, which not all member states agreed to do, but in the end, we do have gender parity within the College of Commissioners. She also appointed the first ever Commissioner for Equality. This is Elena Dalli. And there's also a specific cross-commission task force on equality with representatives from each DG that discuss together and come up with policies and programs to better integrate gender equality, but also other equality dimensions. And of course, our commissioner, Maria Gabriel, and you've heard the quote earlier, is very much committed to gender equality, to promoting women talent, but also, I mean, for institutional transformation in our institutions. So at the Commission level, 6 equality strategies have already been adopted. The first one was the gender equality strategy for 2020-2025. And already in that document, it was stated that research and innovation was a key sector, and Horizon Europe was highlighted. Already the possibility to require gender equality plans from applicants was mentioned, and the fact that there would be funding available for gender and intersectional research, so intersections between gender and other social categories such as ethnic or racial origin, sexual orientation, disability, etc. And also a specific focus on innovation. Then there were 5 more strategies that were adopted. I won't detail them all, and more efforts, with the latest being a directive on combating violence against women and domestic violence that was adopted in March 2022. So this is the overall picture for gender equality. Then our own framework is, of course, the European research area, which in 2012 set a set of I mean, 5 actually, and it became 6 priorities, and gender equality and gender mainstreaming in research was one of these priorities, with 3 underpinning objectives: gender equality in careers at all levels, gender balance in decision-making, bodies and position, and the integration of the gender dimension into the contents of research and innovation. And that means integrating sex and gender analysis into the design, into the topics of the research itself. It doesn't relate to who does the research. And that research promotes gender equality. And the overall approach that was pushed for this is a systemic approach through institutional change. So member states and associated countries were encouraged to adopt national action plans that would address these underpinning objectives. And the Commission itself translated that into EU funding. And there were specific support for the implementation of gender equality plans in higher education institutions, in research organizations, and public bodies that were funded since the 2010 work program, so under FP7 and going on under Horizon 2020, and overall, about 200, actually I think it's 207 explicitly, organizations have been funded to implement gender equality plan in a total of 30 projects for a budget of 72 million euros. And in addition to that, there were a set of supporting activities, training academies, communities of practice, some research projects as well to consolidate this policy and help organization. And you will see in the two next slides, I won't go into the detail, but the whole timeline of these efforts. So under FP7, these projects were funded under the Science and Society work program. And you can see here in green, the first 9 gender equality plan implementing projects that were funded, and there were some more projects before. And at the bottom part of the slide, you see those supporting activities, including sorry, I'm hearing people in the background, including an ERANET on gender equality. And in Horizon 2020, the efforts were strengthened. And you see here in green, 21 gender equality plan implementing projects were funding. And in one of those, in the 2019 work program, there's Project Caliper, in which there is a Georgian partner, the Shota Rustaveli National Science Foundation. It's the only one to date that's actually funded to implement a gender equality plan. And this project is ongoing until the end of this year. And you see there also another set of projects to support either at national level or institutional level organization in addressing gender equality issues in research and innovation. So I presented the 2012 ERA communication. There was a new communication, as you may know, from the Commission in September 2020 for a renewed, revisited, revitalized European research area with still a strong focus on gender equality, but also recognizing that there was a need to address more inclusiveness. So intersectional inclusiveness, as I underlined before, so addressing intersections between gender and other potential grounds of discrimination, but also sectorial inclusiveness, better involving the private and the innovation sector, and geographical inclusiveness. So trying to have everybody on board, including widening countries. So the Commission proposed to work on inclusive gender equality plan and policies, which was supported by the member state, and the new ERA policy framework that was adopted at the end of 2021 with a package of documents, very important ones, including the Council conclusions of the future governance of the European research area, to which is annexed the ERA policy agenda. In this agenda, there are 20 actions that member states are committing to consider. And one of these actions, action 5, promote gender equality and foster inclusiveness, taking note of the Ljubljana Declaration, was adopted in the framework of this ERA policy agenda. The Ljubljana Declaration is a declaration that was spearheaded by the Slovenian presidency and that was signed by 25 out of the 27 member states and also associated countries. And I believe Georgia has signed it. And on the next slide, I will detail a little bit this Action 5. And I'm detailing it because this Action 5, to really be implemented, had to be approved by at least half of the member states, which happened. And we encourage also associated countries to commit to its implementation. And Georgia is one of those associated countries that said, yes, we will contribute to the implementation of Action 5. So this action has 4 interlinked deliverables, 2, deliverable 1 and deliverable 3 that are more general about developing policy coordination and also developing the concept of inclusive gender equality. And there are 2 more specific deliverables, one that's on gender-based violence, addressing it and trying to define some kind of EU baseline, like a code of conduct, but it could be something else. And another specific deliverable that addresses research funding organization. So that's very much linked to the integration of the gender dimension into the programs of the research funding organization, but also related to addressing potential gender biases in the research evaluation carried out by research funding organization. To implement this action, a subgroup is being created right now, and your national authorities will soon receive an invitation to nominate representatives to this subgroup, which hopefully will start its activities next month. So next slide. That's the policy context. But again, really, Georgia has an important part to play in contributing to its realization. Now, Horizon Europe. The architecture you know very well, and these are the program parts where there's a stronger focus on gender equality, but of course this is cross-cutting because there's quite a strengthening enshrined in the legal basis, and this addresses 3 main levels. The gender equality plan, which is an eligibility criterion for specific categories of legal entities, the integration of the gender dimension into the contents of research and innovation project, which is an award criterion, mandatory, and then the gender balance in research teams, which is a ranking criterion for proposal with the same score. And a novelty also in Horizon Europe is that researchers can self-declare their gender according to 3 categories of gender identity: women, men, and non-binary. Now, the core part of the presentation, gender equality plans. Ongoing now, and since calls for proposals that had deadlines in 2022, beneficiaries and their affiliated entities, that are public bodies, research organization, or higher education establishment from member state and associated countries, so Georgia is concerned, need to have a gender equality plan that fulfills a set of mandatory requirements. This is through a self-declaration that's on the participant portal, and so it's part of the legal entity validation process. So I will walk you through now. Well, first I'll detail the mandatory requirements quickly and the recommended areas that these gender equality plans should address. And then I will walk you through how the legal entity appointed representatives in each of the prospective applicants that are subject to this eligibility criterion, what they need to do in the participant portal. So first, what do we request? This gender equality plan, or it can be an equivalent document, needs to be a public document signed by the top management of the organization, published on its public website and disseminated through the organization, that addresses gender equality with specific targets, specific topics. It needs to have dedicated resources, financial and or human resources. It could be dedicated position, for example. It needs to be evidence-based, so built on data collection, monitoring of sex and or gender disaggregated data on the different staff categories in the organization and among the students, if it's a teaching organization, with annual reports. And it needs to have some form of training or capacity building on gender equality issues in research and innovation, and in particular on unconscious gender biases. These are the 4 mandatory requirements. Then we recommend, and this is a consensus built with a consultation with a wide array of stakeholders, including the GEP implementing projects that we have been funding since FP7, and national representative, on what key thematic areas should be covered by a gender equality plan. These are not mandatory, but recommended. Work-life balance and organizational culture, gender balance in leadership and decision-making, gender equality throughout the career path, so in recruitment, career progression, the integration of the gender dimension into the contents of research and of teaching, if it's a teaching organization, and then measures against gender-based violence, including sexual harassment. Now, what should the leader be doing? Now I'm going to show you a little video on exactly step by step what the legal entity appointed representative needs to do. So if you go, so if you're already registered, so the organization has a PIC, you should go into My Organizations, then go into which is your organization, modify your organization, go into the Legal Information tab, and edit the legal information. I'm sorry, I don't know why it's not doing a video. It should be doing a video. Now it's step by step. So this, I'm a bit surprised, but let's see there. Okay, now it works. So at the bottom, you will see this button with change gender equality plan. Right now, on the left, you don't have an indication whether you have a gender equality plan, yes or no. Then you click. Okay, and next slide. I don't know why this is taking so much time. Yes, then if you click this pop-up window will appear. You click on yes, and then the questionnaire appears with the 4 mandatory requirements and the 5 recommended areas, and you need to click on whether your organization fulfills these. And this need be the truth. I mean, and if you don't fill in certain requirements at submission stage, you will still have until the grant agreement preparation stage. I will get back to this. So only if the 4 recommended, well, mandatory requirements are signed, and whatever the recommended areas are, will this flag on the gender equality plan appear. And this is what the project officers from the executive agencies will be checking at grant agreement preparation stage. Then if you have not registered in the participant register, then you go to the participant portal, how to participate, go to participant register, register your organization, and then you have organization data, and you go again to the legal information tab, and again at the bottom you will see this button on changing the gender equality plan. So that's how they're supposed to proceed in your organization. Just a few key things that you should keep in mind. It's a self-declaration. If you don't have a gender equality plan, but you have an equality and diversity strategy, or you have some institutional strategic plan, but you fill you fulfill the 4 mandatory requirements, that's considered an equivalent. If it's even several documents and you do fulfill these 4 recommended mandatory requirements, it's also considered an equivalent, but it's best to have on your web page an explanation into where these requirements are fulfilled. You need to have it at grant agreement preparation. It's not only the coordinator of the project that needs to have a gender equality plan, it's all the partners that are subject to it. And we recommend that you do that beforehand. You will not need it at the submission stage. It will not be evaluated. It will block your proposal from being evaluated. It will not. But still, if you don't want to delay grant agreement signature, so time to grant and risk of not being able to be part of the project, you should think about it early on. And then the grant agreement commitment itself, the model grant agreement, has a specific article on gender equality where it says that you should strive to promote equal participation, equal opportunities within your projects, and that should be in line with your gender equality plan if you're subject to this eligibility criterion. And we will check that on selected samples of organizations, and this is starting now with a pilot compliance check. We will check that you comply with this requirement, and there will be annual checks. So now we also have a lot of support to help you design this gender equality plan if you do not have one or that it does not fully comply with the requirements. There's a dedicated webinar that you have the link to here. You will have my slides. The gender equality in academia and research tool that the European Institute for Gender Equality developed with our support. The GEAR tool has tons of best practices and really step-by-step guidance, building on those projects that have been implementing gender equality plan under FP7 and Horizon 2020. It has recently been updated, so it's more user-friendly, that can be helpful. You have material through the funded projects, and Caliper has a Georgian partner, so you could get in touch with this project. And we also developed a guidance that has been published in September 2021. So you have the link here with more examples and more explanations if you need some. Now, integration of the gender dimension into research and innovation content. As I said, this is actually an award criterion. It's part of the excellence criterion for research and innovation actions and innovation actions. It's part of the methodology that all RIAs and IAs should implement. So what this means, it's really to take into account sex and or gender. And by sex, I mean biological attributes. And by gender, social, cultural identities, norms, relations that can have a role in the topic itself of the project. So really, when you design your proposal, thinking of sex and gender as potential variables, and also having in mind that you want the project to promote gender equality. So this is important. That's a requirement. It's a requirement throughout Horizon Europe, whatever the program part, unless there is in the topic description a sentence such as this one saying, in this topic, the integration of gender dimension, sex and gender analysis in research and innovation content is not a mandatory requirement. So if you don't see that in the topic description, it means you have to do it. Still, if you think that in your specific proposal, it's not relevant, and you can justify this, so saying there's no prior literature that says that sex and gender is important in this topic, you can do that in the proposal, but you will have to explain why it's not specifically important in your project. So to better understand what this means, we also have a lot of support material that we have developed. There was a report published in November 2020 with specific case studies covering basically all the clusters of Horizon Europe. So in health, in AI, robotics, climate change, transport, I mean, many thematic areas with explaining why and how it's important to take into account sex and or gender. It also contains methodologies on how to do that. So how to do sex analysis, how to do gender analysis, and how to do intersectional analysis when it's relevant, and some specific field-specific methods. So some that are more related to biology, what it means to do sex analysis with lab animal research or even with cells and tissues. So things that are more specific, you can have information there, and some recommendation for Horizon Europe. You have more information, more resources, examples in the Horizon Europe program guide in the section on gender equality and inclusiveness. Here are some links to some projects that also have some good explanation material and examples on how you can do that. And up on the right here, I highlighted an interview of Commissioner Gabriel who explained why this was important. So this is not about having an equal balance of women and men carrying out the research project. It's really about in the contents, in the design of it, in the matter itself of the project, that it takes these aspects into account. And you have two references to Nature magazine editorials that were praising this new approach in Horizon Europe, saying it was the way to go, and also saying that their own journals were raising the bar to do that in the research. So now sorry. Okay, so that's, I don't know why, okay, it's okay. There's just the one slide missing, actually two, but it's just to what is missing, and I don't know why. Maybe it's later, let me check. Maybe no, I guess I forgot to put it in, but it's about gender balance in the names, actually in the researchers table, which is this one that you have in proposals. Here, I already said that there was this option of a third gender identity category, but you are also supposed to put the names, the career stage, and the role in the project of researchers. And based on gender balance, on those named researchers in the proposal, there will be a ranking of proposal. It's not the first ranking criterion for proposal with equal scores. The first one is really that you cover everything that's in the topic description. The second one is the score on excellence, and then the score on impact, except for innovation action where it's reversed. And this one is the third one. So this is to take into account as well. So now, just a few information that could be of relevance to you for funding on gender equality in Horizon Europe. So already what has been funded, so as I said, and as had been announced in the general gender equality strategy for the Commission, there is funding for gender studies and intersectional research, and more particularly in cluster 2. So there were 2 topics now with projects that are running or just starting on feminisms for a new age of democracy, and also on gender and social, economic, and cultural empowerment. There's support for inclusive gender equality policies, supporting the European research area in the widening participation and strengthening the European research area program part, and I will detail those topics. And there's also big effort from the European Innovation Council on supporting women innovators and women founders. So founders and funders, actually. So I will not detail these, but just say that the Women Tech EU program is helping deep tech women founders of startups, and there's a new gender equality index. There's a specific prize for women innovators. So that's also an important part of the support of gender equality provision in Horizon Europe. And then the Widera work program. So the one that the 2021-2022, there were, oh, sorry, I will not reboot now. So in 2021, there were two topics, really. One, to develop this concept of inclusive gender equality, intersectional gender equality. That's Project Inspire that started this fall, and that will come up with many support as well for it can be useful to, there will be hubs and communities of practice that Georgian universities could participate to, events that can participate to. There's a topic on policy coordination, so Gender Action Plus, very much supporting this upcoming Action 5 subgroup that I talked about earlier for the ERA. In 2022, there's a Living Lab for Gender Responsive Innovation project that will be coming up starting shortly. And there was specific support for the implementation of inclusive gender equality plan. And actually, in one of those projects that is starting now, Project Supporter, there is a Georgian organization, the Georgian State Teaching University of Physical Education and Sport, because this project is more focused on sports-oriented institution. And then there's also support for our pan-European statistical report on gender in research and innovation, the She Figures. We're now developing this 2024 edition. The Gender Equality Competence Facility is a public procurement that will be launched shortly, and that will offer support, in particular to widening organization on how to comply with the GEP eligibility criterion. So be aware that this is coming up, and that can also support your organization. And there's a new award, the Gender Equality Champions Award. This year, sorry, I'll switch to this slide, was the first edition. There are 3 categories: sustainable gender equality champion, so long-term investment and on gender equality; the newcomer gender equality champion, so first-time gender equality plan, but you can show that you already made quite some progress compared to the initial situation. So that could be of interest to you in the next editions. And the inclusive gender equality champion that are opening their policies to intersectionality. So now going back to this new 2023-2024 work program, 2 calls in 2023. One is again policy support, but with a specific focus on gender-based violence, really a zero tolerance approach to gender-based violence. That's a 2 million budget CSA. And the second one is more specifically on the underrepresentation of women and girls in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields, so the STEM fields, and trying to develop a STEAM approach with the A is related to in embedding art into the STEM teaching approaches, critical thinking, and more let's say more framing, socio-cultural framing of the STEM topics. So that's a 2 million CSA. 2 topics again in 2024. One is still about policy coordination and following up on the 2021 one. And again, support for the implementation of inclusive gender equality plans. So a repetition of the call of 2022, where there is a Georgian organization that is funded. And again, she figures, and again, the gender equality champions. And I will stop here just with a few useful resources. Undergoing activities that we are developing ourselves at GGRTD, so through procurement or expert groups. There's a report that can be of interest to you that was like a benchmarking pilot report on what existed at EU level and abroad on inclusive, so intersectional gender equality policies. And we're now closing the work of an expert group on the impact that the COVID pandemic has had on gender equality in research and innovation, and on the productivity actually and working conditions of women researchers. And there's also a more broad study on what was the impact of EU policies, but also national policies that have promoted the implementation of gender equality plan. That's coming up. And that's it. This is our website. You have all type of updated information on there. You have the link here. You have specific question on her sections on Horizon Europe and specific one on the GEP eligibility criterion, many links. And that's it. It was a bit long, but I wanted you to have all the detail, and I'm really looking forward to answering any questions you may have. Thank you.
Wow. So thank you so much. It was actually, I mean, let me make it just very short note that, be honest now, I have an impression that I need to learn much more than it was expected before your presentation. So that's really very, very important messages that we've got from you. But I don't want to use our potential applicants' time now, and Luca will facilitate questions and answer sessions. So if anybody wants to ask something, could you please just raise your hands online, and then Luca will give you a chance to ask.
Okay, thank you, Anne, again for very informative presentations. So let's move to our Q&A session. So first, Nino Parsadanishvili, I see you raised your hand from Tbilisi State University. Nino, please proceed with your question.
Hello, everyone. Many thanks for today's meeting indeed, and many thanks to your insightful presentation. I have just a quick question. You mentioned that there will be annual monitoring checks of GEP, right, from the European Commission perspective. So yes. I was wondering, what is the procedure of these annual monitoring checks? Should we be then asked to provide additional information, documents, council recommendations, internal institutional decisions? What will be the process? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question. So indeed, there will be sampled checks, but on large samples of organization representing different legal entity categories that are subject to the GEP eligibility criterion. Annually, we're now devising the detailed procedure for this, but what is for sure is that we will check compliance with the 4 mandatory requirements. So that there is a GEP or equivalent document that is adopted by the top leadership, endorsed by the top leadership, that it's visible on the public website, that it's known in the institution, that it does have resources to be implemented. So is there a gender equality office or a group, a committee, someone that's making sure that it's implemented? And then, do you collect sex and or gender disaggregated data on your staff composition, on the faculty, on the students? Is it reported annually? And then do you have some type of capacity building, sensitization event or trainings on gender equality in research and innovation, and in particular on unconscious bias? This is what will be checked. So if this is not easily available on the website of the institution, the hired external experts, because we will go through hired experts on the topic, will get back to the institution to get this information. So this is what will be checked. And of course, they will look at which of the recommended areas are covered, but these are not mandatory. But of course, if you don't cover any of these 5 thematic areas, it's not very much a gender equality plan. I mean, if you don't promote gender balance at the highest level, if you don't promote gender equality in recruitments and in careers, so I mean, at least a few of these need to be addressed to prove that it's a gender equality plan. So I hope this has answered. We will make public, of course, what will be requested from organization when we do the check. But if organizations are found to be in breach, and there was already a frequently asked question, so an FAQ that's on the participant portal on this, it will be like any other eligibility criteria in Horizon Europe. You will have a letter saying that you need to comply with, you will have a certain time period to respond to this, and if it's not corrected, then fundings will be cut. So participation in Horizon Europe project will stop.
Anne, thank you very much. And I have another question to you, and I'm done with my questions because others may also have, I'm sure. When we talk about gender equality, what pops up into my mind is that it is a very complex issue that is related to human resources department, legal department, head of administration office, audit office of university, etc., faculty deans. What will be your advice in this case? Because universities are more hesitant to establish new bodies when it comes to certain developments. But will it be also sufficient, for instance, if we will establish advisory committee that will be attached to the Horizon Europe office, and this advisory committee will consist with respective representatives of the responsible departments, and then when the monitoring of gender equality processes at institutional level will be the case, then this committee makes the decision? Or what is the best for the internal institutional setting? Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your question. There is no one recipe, one size fits all. It's really, it depends on your organization itself, on its culture, and its how it's structured. You have many examples in the guidance that we produce. You have many examples on the GEAR tool that's online. Let's say that when you have indeed all the departments that can be, I mean, that should be involved in the gender equality plan, and of course the human resources, but also the research departments and the teaching departments and the top level. It's always better when there's a representation, and even a representation of staff and of the student body. It's always better. We do find that in organizations that are, let's say, most advanced, having a very top level position, such as a vice president for gender equality or for equality and inclusion, it's often something that works well because these people have a seat at the decision-making table and can really have an influence on the implementation of the gender equality plan. But it really depends on the organizations. so yeah, I would recommend that you can have a consultation also within your organization. When we say collect information, so sex and gender disaggregated data, of course, it's very often quantitative data, but qualitative data like climate survey, trying to find out how, people in your organization consider the gender equality situation is and what it could be improved. That can also be very helpful.
Thank you very much.
Before we proceed to our question by Nino Zedginidze, I would like to mention that you can type your questions in chat and we'll answer these questions as well. So, Ms. Nino Zedginidze, please proceed with your question.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for interesting presentation. Some of my questions were already answered by presentations. Some were already asked by previous speaker. As I see, it's not mandatory to have a gender equality commission among university. Is it right? Or should we include it in gender equality plan with its responsibilities, with its member, with its structure? Is it mandatory or not? Because if we should include this means that in other regulations of the universities should be made some changes, right? So is it mandatory or not?
Again, what is mandatory is that you have dedicated resources. So it can be through different forms. It doesn't have to be a committee, but a committee can be in your situation something that's for the best. If it's too complicated with your regulation, then maybe a specific position of somebody overseeing this. But indeed, there have to be human and or financial resources to implement what you're supposed to improve in your organization. So we are not requesting that it absolutely be a committee. It can be if there's a VP for equality, or if it's a gender equality office. Yes, with one staff or more staff, hopefully. So yeah, so it's this. It should fit your institution. So that's really important in gender equality plans, that it's tailor built to address the issues in the organization. Of course, many of these issues will be common to most higher education institutions across Europe, but there can be specific cases on each type of organization.
Thank you.
Okay, so I see no raised hands, but does anyone have questions? Yeah, I see Teona Diasamidze raised hands now. So Teona, please.
Can you hear me? Hello, everyone. Thank you for organizing the meeting, and thank you for providing such information to us. I'm from Ilia State University, a grant office coordinator. We have already, the GEP is ready to be published in a couple of days. So my question is, does it have to be in both languages? We have it in Georgian, but could we just provide this survey in English, or it has to be in English as well, the whole document?
It can be in any national language of your organization, of your country. So if it's only Georgian, that's fine. Of course, if the random compliance check falls on your organization, then it will need to be translated a priori, unless we have Georgian external experts, Georgian speaking experts that can check it. But we do not request that it be necessarily in English. No.
Thank you. And another question is regarding the affiliated legal entities. You have also mentioned yesterday at the info day of Class 2 does it concern only the public bodies? Because the affiliated entity, they implement action tasks, right? So does it has to be private organizations as well? I mean, do they have to have the GEP?
Good question. It depends on the legal entity category of these affiliated entities. Indeed, if it's a private for-profit, it will not need to have a gender equality plan. If it's a private non-profit, then it will. I mean, if it falls under the categories of research organization, which for the European projects programs means performing organization, if it's a higher education institution, or if it's a public body, indeed. But if it's a private for-profit or an NGO, civil society organization, it doesn't need to have a gender equality plan.
Yeah. Thank you. And another question is that I have is regarding the other documents, other provisions. Let's say we do not have any GEP, but we have the provisions implemented in different documents, different legal articles. How do the Commission evaluate if we meet the criteria or not? I mean, usually it is in different regulatory, legal stuff. And yes.
So, as I said, we have an FAQ on this. I'm not sure I said actually, but there is a frequently asked question on this. It's best to have on your website like a document that says we comply to the first mandatory requirement through this document, and you have a reference to where and to this one through these documents. So just summarize in what way you do comply with the 4 mandatory requirements.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So are there any more questions? Or any more persons want to ask? So yeah, we have just one question in chat. Does the institution have to update the data in GEP annually? This is the question.
Well, I mean, what we require is that it's updated, well, monitored annually. You don't need, it can be a different document. Many organizations actually publish, how do you say, a social report or some, where they put the statistics in the different staff categories and student categories in the organization separately from the gender equality plan. If you want to update your gender equality plan, you can, if it's really embedded in it, why not? But it's not necessary.
Thank you. So next, I see Miss Sylvia Bojinova has raised her hand. So Sylvia, please proceed.
Thank you, Luca. First, many thanks to Anne. I think the presentation of Anne has been very useful for all colleagues. Many thanks to Nino actually for organizing this event. While listening to Anne and to questions of our colleagues, I have actually one idea. Says trust in the welcome words I delivered this morning. For us to have more participation of widening countries in gender-related activities is very important. And Tunisia is, for example, one of the countries with whom we work a lot because it's also an associated country and also a widening country. And they have invested in the course of the last several years quite a lot of efforts to prepare a gender equality plan. And all their organizations, they have it. Tunisia has been recognized as one of the widening countries, at least according to my knowledge, with quite actually good gender equality plan. So I was thinking if you would be interested to organize maybe a meeting with colleagues in Tunisia in the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research who work on gender-related issues, to have maybe to see an example of a gender equality plan that their organizations are already using They have used in Horizon 2020, and now, of course, they do it for Horizon Europe. And this, if it would be a good idea for you, I could help you to have a contact with a colleague who is the gender equality coordinator for Tunisia. She's a good friend of mine. So please let me know. This might be helpful, might be of interest for you. Thank you. And back to me.
Sorry, thanks a lot, Sylvia. Maybe I can add to this that there are different settings in which Georgian institution could look into. I mean, I mentioned the project Inspire, which is a center of excellence on inclusive gender equality, and there will be a specific hub in there for Central and Eastern Europe. Okay, Georgia is a bit more east, but I think that could also be useful because it will cover widening countries very much. So that's something you could look into. You have the link to the webpage of that project on my slides. Then going back to this subgroup on ERA Action 5 on gender equality and inclusiveness, your national authorities will be appointing a main representative and an alternate one. And these people will be working with representatives from many member states and other associated countries, and also stakeholder organizations such as the European University Association and some Science Europe, that is more for funding organization, to address these issues, share information. So normally these people appointed, we don't know who there will be yet, but as soon as we know, I can let know Sylvia and the national office. You can get in contact with them. They should be able to provide information as well. So, and of course the NCPs, but
yes, and these are all good ideas, and I'm sure our colleagues in Georgia will use it. But as we coordinate all the associated countries, and I can see myself all the efforts of the associated countries, I would like, in addition to what you mentioned, if of course Georgia is interested, to talk with the gender equality coordinator in Tunisia, because she's also one of the NCPs and she's the NCP in charge of gender questions. So I'm happy to see that there are several possibilities and several sources of information. And of course, expert and working groups. As you know, we're encouraging Georgia a lot to participate in ERA, and we're very glad to see that Georgia has expressed interest to participate actually in all ERA actions, not only on gender. Thank you so much, Anne. Back to Nino now. I see that she has also
I think that we are going to the end of the meeting, so but just a very small, short question about the role of Horizon Office and Horizon, let's say, NCPs. So let me share our vision, how we can see this, and then maybe we can you can provide us some more ideas how to run this issue. Because actually what we decided is to ask our legal and financial NCP to look after this point. She's newly appointed. She's listening us just several days ago. We made a decision to contact her. Very nice lady, young lady. But what we are going now to do is to, let's say, move to the direction of the branch offices and to take responsibility of the knowledge sharing, let's say, and also acting as a bridge between the universities, not only universities, but also with other institutions, because we have many other stakeholders interested in, and the Ministry of Education and Science. And that's very nice that directly after this meeting, we'll have another meeting at the ministry. So I'm ready to share all these ideas, and your presentation, of course, they've asked to share it with them, and particularly Deputy Minister Nuno Mickiewicz. She's also in charge of this topic under the ministry. So this is something like we are going to do. However, now listening to you, I'm still thinking that we may need to work more about the strategy, how to introduce in a best and efficient way. Because actually Horizon involvement might be very important in terms at a national level, let's say, because this is really very new, and having direct access to the experts like you and all your colleagues, we may contribute quite a lot. This is my opinion, and Tunisia's example will be very important for us to learn more. At the same time, there are other countries asking Georgia to share experience, like Ukraine and Moldova. So yeah, this is something like which we need to look after.
Indeed, there are Ukrainian for sure, Moldovan, I'm not so sure, partners in the gender equality plan implementing projects under Horizon 2020. And in the supporter project in which one of the Georgian institution is a partner, there are also many widening countries, because the purpose of this topic, which is repeated in 2024, is for one more advanced organization to mentor. It's a bit like a twinning scheme, but mentor several organizations from widening countries. And of course, Georgian ones are very much targeted by this topic.
And what Nino means is that the experience that Georgia already has, they have been requested to share it with Moldova and Ukraine. Moldova and Ukraine are countries. They're very important partners for us in the Eastern Partnership, and they're widening countries as well.
Sure, I understood, indeed. But it goes both ways, I think, and there's potential for more, for replying to this call with Ukrainian.
And also it's very important, I think, topic and aspect is non-academic partners or stakeholders, which may have much more specific questions, especially when you mentioned about the specific project where there are no need and where we need to justify. I think that we all need to look into these examples and to understand how we could deal with, because I believe that we will have these kind of questions, because just yesterday we have just 2 or 3 potential applicants coming to our office. And they're starting to think about it, because they don't understand why they need it. Okay, then they're starting to think, okay, they need it because they need to get a grant. Okay, now yes, this is reality, yeah. And then and this should be a smooth process, not just influencing them, but to give them understand that it's for them actually, not for Horizon, but for them. This is the very important to know how to, let's say, sell this product in a good way, in a sustainable way.
And I think you have many information in the resources I put in the report on gendered innovations. There are many arguments to show that's what makes excellent research. I mean, if there are potential differences, sex and gender differences, and that you don't take them into account, then your research results are biased.
Yeah,
and the products, and you're losing opportunities of innovations that you can develop that would benefit to a larger community. So yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Many arguments that you will find there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, and Luca, if there are no other questions, maybe we can.
Yeah, sure. Anne, Sylvia, thank you for your time and this very interesting info day. So if we don't have any other questions, we are going to wrap up this meeting. And just one point at the end of the meeting, I would like to share with our Georgian colleagues is that we now at our national office have dedicated contact point in legal and financial issues and also gender issues. Yes. So in the following weeks, we will have many resources available to share to our organizations, universities, because we understand that probably not every university's top management has this level of English proficiency or time to read into guidelines and so on. So we will have on-demand services to offer to train the university staff who will be involved in
I guess
develop
we
picture.
may also ask you, can we share your presentation and to
Yes, I will send you the PDF with all the links
excellent.
after the presentation.
Oh, yeah, excellent. So we may also
With the two
translation.
missing slides, but I'll add them.
So we'll
Thank you.
have the presentation in Georgian.
So then we will translate it.
Okay.
And Nino, one last question on my side. You mentioned that there is a new colleague in charge of legal and financial issues and
Yes.
gender. Is she now with us in this
Yes, yes.
meeting?
Yes,
I would like to see her. For me, it's important to know all new colleagues.
Lorena, can you please raise your...
Hello, can you hear me? Unfortunately, camera is not working and I can't put it
Come
on.
into our room.
Oh, it's working now.
Okay, now I can see you. Hello, nice meeting you.
Hello. Thank
Great. Just for Anne to know, the Horizon, as mentioned, the Horizon Europe office has been established in October, November already 2021.
Yeah,
And there in the meantime, as far as I know, also 14 regional offices. Also for Anne to know that we are promoting this office and the regional offices in Georgia, Ukraine, and as Eric is meeting very soon colleagues in Ukraine, because the DGRTD is supporting the creation of a Horizon Europe office in Ukraine. That's why for me it's very important to know all new colleagues who have joined. So welcome to Shorana and to Luca as well. For us, it's very important to know the colleagues who work in this office. And once more again, congratulations, Nino. Your office is unique and the event today proved that it is very much needed and you do a great job. It's a perfect start of the new year. Thank you so much.
We have another new person here, our PR manager. Yeah, lady also. So here she is.
Great. Hi, Tatya.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. That's
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah. And we have absolutely fantastic resources already ready for further ideas. So maybe we can then introduce the stuff later during our separate meeting on Friday then.
Exactly. This is what I'll do, Nino. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anne. And it has been my pleasure to see all of you. I'm looking forward then to see you again on Friday.
Thank you so much. Special thanks.
Thanks a lot and good luck with your proposals.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a